Hello and welcome to another edition of Entheo Radio, where we talk about shamanism and altered states for healing. This is your captain speaking. This is Captain Hugh T Alkemi, and I'm very excited today to welcome Ben Moore to the show. Benjamin, welcome.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Hey, hey. Benjamin is an Army veteran and after almost 10 years of service, realized a higher calling and transitioned to a path of spirituality and religious freedom. Benjamin is an avid freediver and specialized in military mountaineer and cold weather. He's a cold weather expert who spent 24 months training in mountain and cold weather survival in the Arctic. This connection to nature and self has led him on this path of awareness and healing that he believes will improve the quality of life for all humanity. In 2020, Benjamin took 8 veterans to Mexico to connect with themselves and source through plant medicine and ancestral exploration. Benjamin is also the co-founder of the Church of Psilomethoxin, of which I'm a member, excitedly. Through this and other initiatives, he continues working with veterans and first responders using sacred plant medicines to help people better understand their purposes and optimize their life human experiences. Thank you so much for being on the show. There's a lot to unpack in that. Where should we start? Should we do this like David Copperfield, you're born and you grew up, or should we jump right into your service?
Wherever you want to start, I mean, I can sort of sum it up for you.
Do the born and
Since we
grow up.
yeah, since we touched on the Arctic stuff and the cold weather, it's in a lot of the works I do with vets, recognizing that part of the emergence from the trauma model or the PTSD, anxiety, depression model is like recognizing a purpose for the self. And so often we grew up in a place where we have these external expectations of our behavior or performance and how we're supposed to deliver ourselves to others. And in the military, that's like a very, very powerful narrative. And it follows, very closely to like the fatherless household, right? So you grow up, your dad leaves, whatever the narrative is. And that's really common these days. Over 50% of marriages end in divorce. So there's a lot of this. So the military is a great place to go to get that development, discipline, masculine training that a lot of boys or young men are missing. So that environment, it really is great for organizing it. Unfortunately, it's sort of more like a stepdad that halfway ignores you. It's like always telling you to behave and do better, and they'll give you a reward. And that's like sort of the background of how the military process is. And so there's so many good things. I'm not absolutely not relating that to anything negative. It's just it's a place where we're going. So I joined the military at 29, and a little bit later in life, I ran a business, and the Great Depression happened, and then cancer in my family happened, and a lot of changes. So I figured it was time for something new, and joined the military and did some fun stuff, and ended up in Alaska. Actually, one of the best, the most fun places for me, just because of would never go there normally, right? It's a place that they're like, hey, do you want to go to Alaska? Like, well, that's not a place that I would ever really volunteer as a regular old person to go. I had no reason to. So like, well, let's give it a shot. Well, turns out it's like one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. It's just green and lush and just really unadulterated, more or less.
Right.
And so
Nature is in its own domain, right?
oh, totally. And they embrace there. So, but the downfall is it's a very volatile and hostile winter. And I got there in April, end of April, and there was still tons of snow on the ground. So I knew it was going to be an interesting experience. But the units up there, that is part of the reason they exist, is to operate in the Arctic. So it is really, really an amazing experience to get to go out and do all this cold weather, below zero. When it was cold, if the snow hit the ground and the temperature dropped below zero, like we were planning training. We were gone 2 weeks, so 2 weeks a month, doing, you name that that operation, that level. We're going, because we have to be fit to activate in that region. We were like the only thing between US and Russia, quote unquote. So we're like always in that rotational activation, like ready to mobilize. So, but through that, getting in touch with, like, I didn't recognize this obviously until afterward, but some of this deeper work that I do now is so related to knowing how much that we can survive when prepared. And so many of us go into our life and occupy the spaces that we go into without being fully prepared. And so then when we're not prepared, we're like bouncing off the walls or off of information like a ping pong ball. And for some of us, that's not a good way to live. And we can look around and see that in the basis of so much struggle in this life is a result of showing up unprepared. And so the more depth of training and preparation individuals have, the better their experiences are when they're in a place of unsurety. And really, anywhere you go, you're going to get dealt information that you don't know what's coming, but you have to know how to make a decision to use that information to make the best next decision for yourself. And so developing these like deeper foundational places for people to draw their inspiration from, if you know how to survive, if you know how to have water, food, shelter, and not freeze to death, when some traumatizing event comes your way, you can handle at least the lowest level of the hierarchical needs, right? You can at least go, okay, I can put this information together, and then I can make a decision and move forward. And so many of my brothers and sisters in uniform, and both first responders and veterans, like, we come from a place where we've been giving a program to run all the time, but then we go out in the civilian world and we're still running the old program. So, and it doesn't really relate. So we're looking for ways to solve these problems, but we haven't gotten the foundational knowledge to make those solutions happen. And so, I've noticed, and that's why the work has become so important to me since I took the vets down to Mexico in 2020. Is just seeing how much of my brothers and sisters leave the military without the foundational understanding of how to put all the pieces together to make the next best choice. Because we're in the military, we're given all the support, all the stuff we need to make our decisions for the next day. We don't have to make any of those choices ourselves. The next day is given for us. It's written for us. We're like actors showing up for work.
Yeah.
But once you go out into infinity and there's unlimited choices, like how do we narrow those into what decisions we're going to make? I mean, you go to the store and there's like 50 different options for chips. What flavor do you want to choose? But when we have that very basic understanding of how to make the next choice, then all those options become less difficult to manage, because then we can go straight from what provides the best support for my process and my emotions. Because we've got, we can go with the numbers, but there's a great percentage of vets who are on prescription medication.
Yeah.
44 at least a day are committing suicide. That's the new statistics that's put out. Yeah. Oh, it's bad. So, and these are instances where individuals are being sometimes maybe pummeled with information, and they just can't make a choice. Nothing's actually happening, but it's so much information. There's not a baseline of what do I do next with all this information. And really, information is mass and energy, and it's just being generated, and it's being trapped like we're a giant capacitor. And so how do we release this information? And it's really getting back to where the self can make the choice to make the next step. And that's it. It's simple, but we need to give the information in the training. So I like to look at myself and how I contribute to like this veteran deal, like these Friday hikes we work, or that we go out and organize, and we do it all over Austin. And really it's amazing to like go out and explore, but it's all it is getting to a place where we can go out in nature and people can be in an environment where there's nothing expected of them. They don't have to say, I'm delivering this result to you, and that's how I get my value. We just go and be there. There's no expectation, no results.
Mhm.
And the benefit of that, what I see is that people are like, we open up and we're more vulnerable. So then we can share the things that are difficult, because the truth is that's where that's where we as humans struggle the most, is
Mhm.
when you see another person, you want to go, I'm having a bad day, I need a hug, or whatever you want, however you want to communicate, right? Because we're all in this balancing act with
Yeah.
the energies around us and the energies within us. And when we see someone that's like really high and bubbly and happy, and we're like really down in the dumps, we start to kind of like move up to their level. And then in some ways, they sort of come down to balance
Yeah.
with us,
Yeah.
right? And so when we can create an environment that we all have these different varying levels of energy, but we go outside in nature, all of us sort of get on the pattern of the natural order of things. And nature is so key. And so I've always been in nature in like an operational way. Like we go out here, I'm setting up observation, or I have this route that I'm reconning. So everything becomes so digital. And so there's this for that, or tit for tat, or binary. And that's not what nature really is. So experiencing it with a different set of eyes, a different set of outcomes, then it can be experienced. And it's not just like I'm driving from A to B. It's like there's so much beauty within that. And then when we leave nature, that when we leave our hikes, or if we did some climbing, like when we leave that, all of that goodness that we generated, that we touched and felt and smelled, that lingers with us. Just like when you leave a scary movie and those thoughts are like, oh, what happened in that movie? It lingers with you.
Yeah.
So, but when you have a place that there's nothing expected of you, like nature's like, basically it's just like, I'm here for you. I'm here giving you my abundance. So when we go and take that with us, and we do that on repeat over and over, it becomes like a feeling or a thought that when people are struggling, they can remember, oh, hey, the waterfall from Friday, it was only a few days ago. And oh, maybe there's another waterfall this Friday.
Yeah.
And so that in itself has become so transformational in this post-military process. And so so every Friday we're doing a microdose of psilocybin. So psilocybin obviously is the brand new
Whoa, wait. I'm gonna
yeah.
pause you. I do
Okay,
want to
you're
talk
good.
about microdosing and microdosing and
Okay.
levothoxin. Go back in time to your first experience that shifted you from, let's say, 3D to 4D or 2D to 3D, where you were this person separated from tribe, separated from spirituality, and you then had a mystical experience, and how it got you to where you are now.
Oh wow. So 2018, I was trapped in my house watching my family enjoy their life from the window. And yeah, I don't know, I had nothing left except to just feel like I was just literally felt like I was just like surrounded in mud. I couldn't move. And 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 in 2013, so this is the feeling is I was remembering in 2013, a buddy of mine handed me some mushrooms when I got home from deployment, and we ate mushrooms, and it blew my mind completely. There's a song. Well, it's a the composition for the movie Inception is done by Hans Zimmer, and there's
Yeah.
a song specifically, Time. And if you go on YouTube, you type Time, and there's a 10-hour loop of it. And so
Oh,
it just it's the same orchestra for 10 hours of this one song, just going all the way around. So we took a bunch of mushrooms and put that song on with blindfolds and really good ear pro, and yeah, just in and out of the torus, explosion, like a full body orgasm, and then back into reality, because the waves of the music sort of take you through this orchestra. So
mm,
in 2018, I'm remembering this happened, and I'm like, oh my god, my buddy saved my life, because that feeling, I knew it felt amazing, and I knew it felt different and better than I felt right now, when I was felt like just like I wanted to disappear. So uh, I didn't know anybody, obviously. I was in the military, I was in the army. So I just grew them. I just ordered spores and substrate and grain and put all the pieces together and started growing mushrooms. And that year I probably grew like 10 pounds of mushrooms and
wow.
yeah. And I ate three to 5 grams in the beginning, like every couple of weeks. And then I went up to like almost 10-gram doses, at
Wow.
least once a month, maybe every other week. And then I was literally going around I would go to like music events and just hand out mushrooms to people. I was like, hey,
Oh,
these are gonna make you feel good. I was just literally handing them out, and that felt good. I'm like, it felt good because it was like they were talking to me. There was like they were telling me to give
community,
me to
yeah.
people, just give me to people. It's just I'm everywhere already. So and the energy was really good in that exchange, and it really started to generate like a motivation in me. So I didn't know where to go or how to interact with anybody. I didn't realize other people did this. I knew they did it for like having fun. But I had no idea that people were really seeing the truth in the behind the veil, and seeing their life from a different perspective, and approaching things differently, and just being different. So I found a psychedelics convention
Oh, wow.
in Arlington. So I went up there and met a vet up there who was speaking, and he introduced me to my now friend and business partner. And since then, we were trying to solve this veteran mental health crisis. And since he's been doing it for longer than I have, but in 2020, yeah, that's when I got really active into it. And we were trying to find there was nothing to protect us in 2020, and I wanted vets to have access to psychedelics like mushrooms.
Whom are you talking about? Who's your friend? What's your friend's name?
Ian, my partner, Ian.
Ian, okay.
Yeah. And so we were looking at land down in Mexico to buy or lease with a local Mayan ejido who they own the land, and we didn't want to buy it necessarily and take it. We just wanted to partner with them so we could bring vets down there. In Mexico, psychedelics are a
Indigenous sort of protected.
well, they're decriminalized, and in a religious context. And in the United States, that was kind of the thing, but it really wasn't. It really wasn't something that was like on the forefront like it is now. And so, yeah, so we were exploring that, and then COVID, like just COVID, right? So COVID sort of slowed that down, and it made it difficult, but also it made me realize that I don't want vets to have to go international. I mean, there's already a couple guys that are doing it now,
Yeah.
but there's not enough. There's not enough. We have 16,000 plus vets every year are committing suicide. So
Wow.
exactly. So there isn't enough of that. Like these organizations, amazing organizations, but a few hundred people. So it's just there's too many requirements to fill. There's too many seats to fill, or just too many chairs or people, not enough chairs to fill them. So
Right.
we were trying to solve that problem, and through all of that exploration and working with 5-MeO-DMT, and how amazingly transformative 5-MeO-DMT is, except you can't take all of it with you. You get so much truth and so much love and light, but days or weeks after, right? In days or weeks after, you're like, what was I thinking about? What was I, going back and trying to continue to like unpack some of these experiences.
Yeah.
And so oral 5-MeO-DMT was sort of the enigma in the room, like something that everyone wished could exist maybe, and tried to figure it out. And yeah, so we sort of, with the help of Alexander Shulgin and proposing this, and Ian's sort of audacity, produced it through mushrooms. And
Yeah.
so we noticed,
So
giving
flash forward to the hyperdose and psilocybin, and then start breaking down this process that you went from DMT and psilocybin, and you found this novel tryptamine, because you're the first one on Entheo Radio. I was hoping to have the founder Greg Lake on to kind of break that down, but I'm excited that I have you.
Yeah.
Because the way that I'm a member of Psilomethoxin Church, and I noticed in the last meeting, and I don't think it's been for a couple weeks that we've had Sunday service, you were smiling most of the meeting. And I was just like, well, who's this guy? And I didn't think that you were an organizer or a founder or anything. I just thought you were a happy dude.
I am a happy dude.
And I was like, well, and then you started talking and answering questions. And I'm like, oh, he's part of the organization.
Yeah.
He has reason to smile. So
yeah, totally.
So go into the background of Hycrodose and what you guys are working on. How
Oh
has,
yeah.
and then
So Ian and I moved to Austin in July of this year. That's when I got out of the Army. So in 2020, I was still in the Army. I've been doing
wow,
this works, whatever. I'm proud of it, so I'll say it openly. But yeah, I was in the Army and working with psychedelics and working with vets because it's what needed to be done. What
yeah,
needed to be done. So in 2020, July, I finally ETS from the Army completely and moved to Austin. The very next weekend, Ian and I started to show up for hikes. We're like, let's show up every Friday and start inviting vets out. And so him and I showed up to the first hike together, and we built a group and started inviting vets to show up. And I started showing them, I've been every Friday except maybe two. But we have enough momentum going, so it's like now we've created actually a thing that's happening. And so every week since the last weekend in July, we've been showing up to different trails around Austin and inviting vets and first responders who have medicine experience, don't have medicine experience, want to just gather and connect with other veterans or first responders, and just getting out in nature. And so it's just gained momentum. And through doing that, and for me, I have been, and people that are sort of have some foresight in psychedelics have been eating mushrooms and going to nature for ages. And really it's really sort of the old way. This is what our ancestors were doing. They were taking mushrooms or taking other plants and just being with nature, maybe using it for hunting or for foraging or for communing with spirit, any number of things. Like these plants were sort of a vital part of the human experience. And
yeah,
so knowing this and knowing the connectedness, and I realized like even just the hiking, I wanted to integrate or incorporate something that can help people assimilate to nature at a much more rapid rate. So, and that's just simply, but really it's like these mushrooms are calling to me and they're like, hey, uh, I want you to come out and be outside and stay out here. And you notice like it just calls you to pay attention to the nuances of what is actually around you. And so, you know, that called me to connect with more vets, to bring them and to offer this as something that if they're willing, so I provide them a microdose if they're willing, obviously through the church, and we take a microdose of psilocybin and we go wander around for hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. I think our longest was like 3 hours. We did like 6 miles,
cool.
and it's just a really, yeah, we walk, we hang out, we take, obviously it's just
You're
like it's just
connecting.
like, yeah, it's a really beautiful thing. And made a lot of friends doing it. And I think that it's really important to have a support system, and then not even like with any sort of specific intention other than like, hey man, I'm having a bad day, and like, oh man, it's like I'm here. I'm
Yeah,
here. That's it. It's simple.
it's
Like
empathy.
no, and no one's put in. It's just, I mean, being
Yeah,
present for others. And so we know that if you have a conversation with someone, for instance, and then you go into your closet and sit there for 2 days, you're going to think about what the last thing you heard was, which was that conversation with that person. And so many veterans are doing. They have this like sort of negative self talk, and a lot of us do. And it's weird, and it's like a nuanced thing, but it's like, I can't do it, I can't do that. That's just like a small piece, but that's really self-talk. And so if we have people who are stuck in that cycle of self-talk and they don't get other people to be around, or they can't go out into a place that's constantly changing and growing like nature, we get stuck in the thought reminders, and
mm-hmm.
the destructive self-talk reminders. And so yeah, the getting together and to doing all these things, and to doing it out in nature with a psychedelic medicine that, well, I don't want to say medicine, but it's, psychedelic sacrament that more or less helps us to assimilate at a higher rate, you know. And I don't want to cut it and parse it and break it down into science, but people are, this is why we're using psychedelics, and this is why this is a psychedelic renaissance. We can take these psychedelic molecules and we can get to where we want to be faster, and that's like in harmony with ourselves and with our surroundings.
So So let's talk about that real quick. So you were using DMT, you've done DMT. Even your
Yeah.
background kind of hints at DMT and mushrooms as a combination there with the toad, the mushrooms growing out the back. So what is psilomethoxin and how is it different than DMT and psilocybin?
Yeah. So
In your own words. You
yeah,
don't have to be
totally.
too super chemy.
Totally. So DMT and psilocybin are the same thing. So psilocybin is a prodrug. It's and then psilocin is actually the active molecule. And psilocin is just 4-hydroxylated DMT. It's literally 4-hydroxy DMT. So it is just edible DMT. And so 5-MeO DMT is obviously it's a slightly different category of tryptamine. So psilocin DMT has an affinity for the 5-HT2A receptor. So that's like visual, auditory, fractals, like sort of all that stimulus that you experience, your senses. And that's why with mushrooms, most people get synesthesia. So like crossing the senses, smelling, color,
Yep.
that kind of thing. And so 5-MeO DMT has an affinity for the 5-HT1A receptor. So that like moderates your fight or flight. You're more or less, like we say, ego, the egoic center of your body. And so psilomethoxin is the same affinity, right? Because it's 4-hydroxy 5-methoxy-dimethyltryptamine. So it's once the 4-hydroxy breaks off, because that's what's allowing you to eat it, you're getting the 5-MeO DMT more or less is like sort of the baseline experience.
Wow.
And it's just like a very mild dose of 5-MeO DMT. So I don't know if you have any experience with 5-MeO DMT, but
Yeah,
it's a
first
completely
drug.
different. It's a complete. All right, so it's a completely different psychedelic experience. Where if you use DMT, it's variable geometry, variable color. Things move, patterns change. I don't want to go into the specifics because everybody has these different descriptions, but
Sure.
that's really like at its base. It's variable and it's exciting. It's beautiful, and I think a lot of the stuff is behind the veil of what is really here. We're just putting it together in like a very palatable and like tantalizing way, right? Because we want to eat it and smell it. So things look really good and tasty to us in this organic way. And then 5-MeO DMT is more like a unity consciousness. It's more pure, maybe more singular in color, and patterns are more fixed. So there's not like triangles and squares and diamonds. It's all maybe the same sort of chandelier, maybe mosaics, I guess you could say, or like Minecrafty sort of overlay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if with eyes open, sort of towards the end. So so the experience, it's less visual. So at a low dose of 5-MeO DMT, there is no this happening. There's no visual stimulus. It's like almost like if you use like MDMA, it's like it just feels really, really good at a low dose. And that's sort of like what you get in the psilomethoxin, just like that, like little bit of lift and energy. And also obviously at higher doses, you're going to get some stimulation, but at low dose, you're just getting the lift, but there's no visual or auditory stimulation. So with psilocybin microdoses, you still sort of get some artifacts. Or if you close your eyes, you're getting like things that are moving. Like this doesn't happen with psilomethoxin. It's more clean, I guess you could say. And really the beauty is, especially with the population that I'm most focused on, is with psilocybin or LSD, you have to take a break in between doses. And some people do like 3 or 4 days of microdosing and then a day off. Or the fatty man stack is like 1 day on, 2 days off, 1 day on, 2 days off. And that's great for like doing a study protocol, but veterans, or really most people that are suffering any sort of mental health issue, which is 75 million, mind you. So they can't do that. Take a day and then take 2 days and then take a day. People that are in a more volatile state of mind, they need to be able to take something as regularly as required, without having to take a break, without any substantially reduced effects. And with psilocybin, if you take a gram today, tomorrow you have to take at least 2 grams to get a 1 gram effect. And then it's subsequently more the next day after that. So it really starts, you get diminishing returns after the first round. And that's just sort of how the medicine works. So with psilocybin, I can take a dose right now, and then in 3 hours I can take another dose if I need to.
Hmm.
But definitely every day. There's no tolerance that's being
Oh,
built.
there's no tolerance.
There's no tolerance. So because it's yeah, so every day you can take it, and then we can take it, twice a day as required. And the idea is to use this plant to help us to teach ourselves as our ego's downregulated, to manage our process, to get into doing. That's a part of the integration stuff. And if you go like with the church, we have this. We run these integration circles, and we have service, because with this we need to learn to manage our own energy. And so the psilocybin, we're going to help us get there faster. But the idea is to not need it. So next month, it's like, hey, maybe I'll only take it today because I know I'm going to deal with a high intensity environment. But then the next couple of days is just whatever, so I don't need to take it. And then because once we're in charge of our own process, right, as our own healers, then we're not looking for, oh my gosh, I need you to heal me. Right. I have the tools because I went through all this community learning to implement. So then I don't need to take something every day by schedule, because I can manage my own energy. So that's the idea. That's the long-term idea of the self and learning through this process with us.
So before you change topics, and we stay on this sort of a chemi kind of dosage scale, to be revealed, I got some sacrament from the church, our church, psilomethoxin.com. And it came in the mail, came as powder because we didn't have the capsule access. I think a lot of it's coming as powder right now.
Yep.
And I've been taking magic mushroom microdose powder probably over a decade now. And I had the luck of fresh microdosing mushrooms the day before I took psilomethoxin. I took about 180 milligrams as my first psilomethoxin dose. It was really, really nice feeling. I didn't notice any difference in strength, and that was one of the things that I'm really glad you commented on, because with microdosing magic mushrooms, as you said, the varying tolerances from day to day in subsequent days are a big deal for a lot of people. Totally. And I've noticed that when I'm coaching people through microdosing, like, hey, you're gonna have to take days off, and it's curious to me how you presented it in a way that I had never really heard from anybody, because I guess I'm speaking as somebody who doesn't want to be contradicted because I have more experience, but it's really great to hear that some people really need everyday support from their, and in order to manage anxiety, in order to manage lifestyle, whatever they're going through. And so it's also really cool to hear that psilomethoxin doesn't have the tolerance experience that a lot of people are up against. And it is, it seems like to me, because I understood it was more or less naturally produced by the mushrooms, it seems to me like it is a pretty clean and natural substance, right? Because it's essentially a mushroom powder that doesn't contain psilocybin, right?
Yeah, so it's not, when we're not doing anything after, it's just ground up mushrooms. So we're feeding the substrate 5-MeO isomer and as basically nutrients, and the mushroom does all the rest, and it grows and produces this. Yeah, so it's an interesting, and there's no reference standard. So finding it has proven, in some of the testing we're doing, finding it has proven difficult. But yeah, it's, I don't pretend to know anything about chemistry or the science behind it. I just know we do bioassay for every shipment we ship out, and experientially, I've been taking mushrooms for a long time. I was ordering truffles from the Netherlands in like 2005,
Oh yeah, like the
like
magic truffle
people. Of them. Yeah,
magictruffles.com.
Right?
I love them.
Like the pounds, and so knowing and having experience with psilocybin, and knowing how it presents when we take it, and how these things vary, and having extensive experience with 5-MeO DMT in all my works, and knowing how that experience feels and plays out in the mind. And, when you take something, obviously you can be pretty sure based on your experience, especially if you have a depth. That's the whole reason I'm doing this, right? Is what variance and what nuances this thing has. And so, experientially, yeah, this is 5-MeO DMT in a maybe a drip or a microdose, but
Yeah.
yeah, chemistry, and that's I'll leave that to the scientists. I do for me, it's like I'm person to person, and I'm working with vets and I work with myself. So I know that we've given some to Hamilton Morris, and we have
Right.
independent labs who are testing it. So we'll see what they find. But yeah, they found trace amounts of psilocin and psilocybin, which is obviously to be expected. And so, for me personally, I look at this as, hemp's up to 0.3% THC. So I think that's like acceptable trace levels of any alkaloid content. All right. I mean, they're not putting anyone in jail for growing phalaris grass. And that has like whatever,
EMT, yeah.
0.1% DMT and 5-MeO DMT in it. So like, I think that's pretty safe margins. So yeah, rest
Yep.
on those laurels. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, it's like I got work to do, man. If I have a vet who's like, I don't want to say these like magic or like powerful words, but they're at their wits' end and they're in agony, physical agony, and they're full of all this stuff, and they can't get rid of it. And I can give them something that's a mushroom, and they can take it and say, I've had the best day of my life in the last 10 years. To me, I can say that I'm not going to stop doing this.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all the feedback I need.
Yeah.
I've had enough of the VA bearing statistics and results and hiding shit and treating my brothers and sisters like shit. So I'm done with it, and I'm doing the best I can to save their lives. And obviously, there's a whole lot of other things happening with our church, but
Yeah.
really for me, like that's my target purpose, is to get this sacrament to veterans as fast and as much as possible, and that's it. So hopefully this I mean, it's already seeming like things are going pretty well, and I'm really happy and appreciative of the team that's helping to do and bring this to market. All of the people that really like, it's a really beautiful organization to work with, and it's yeah, it's really
Definitely.
important work. you
Yep.
know
So I mean, show off your shirt there. It looks like you got a team shirt
oh
there.
yeah, this is Psilomethoxin.
Yeah.
This is the
Tell people
molecule.
about the website. Tell people about the team,
Yeah.
who's on the team, who shows up to the integration meetings and the Sunday services. And
Well, I mean, so now with integration, there's, I think, I don't, last week, maybe like 30 or 40 people. And yeah, that we have almost 1,000 members, 970 members of the church right now. So thank you. And really that's like, that's the idea of even just like microdosing.
yeah,
We want to get people together in community so then we can show the joy and the love and the light that we all have to shine with each other. And there's not, when someone has some shadow or darkness, and we create an environment that we're not afraid to go, hey, I'm having a bad day, then we can all help them to come out and rise out of it. And Psilomethoxin maybe is just like it's a thing, and it works, but I think the main point is the community part of it, and the
right.
integration, and helping people to be their best self, and that's the reward. And yeah, so we just have a bunch of people that are helping, like do the website, do all the, and I don't want to, yeah, it's really important, and I'm so in awe of the whole community that's come together and really made this possible. Like people just like you, like everybody that's saying, I believe enough to say yes, to see what it's all about,
Yeah.
because it really is all about doing good and helping people to be the best self that they can be, and that's it. And if that, yeah, it's simple.
You see, I think we're in a similar boat. Unfortunately, I'm not a military veteran or anything. Maybe a veteran of the drug war.
Yeah, we all are, man.
All right, we're still in it. We're still in it in some ways. Um, but I had a friend pass away, suicidal situation over the summer,
I'm sorry to
and
hear that.
preeminently before I discovered psilomethoxin.com, before I discovered the church, I was being given through my dreaming shamanic practices messages about, and when I took mescaline cactus, messages about a church. And I'm like, well, it's Arizona, there's churches, there's Native American churches, there's cactus churches. But it was like we had talked about this, me and my buddy, before he passed. And then it seemed like it came through really strongly in my vision quests and in my dreams. And I was like, okay, I really need to figure out this church thing. And so then along comes some information from the ethers of the psychedelic clubs of Phoenix, and they're like, look at this website, they're doing the church thing. And I'm like, huh. So I jumped on it to join immediately as soon as I saw it. Like within a week, I'm like, all right, this looks legit enough. Let's pay the dues and see what we have access to. And I'm really grateful because I feel like it was just part of a mystical flow or a vision quest flow, and it met with me at the time when I needed it. And I mean, I have access to these medicines. I'm excited about it, but I'm also excited about. I know that there's a lot of people that this can help because it's legal, because it's
Yeah.
sacrament, and
Yep.
and that's where we start changing the conversation. Because I even talked with a guy who's training to be a NASA astronaut. I talked with him yesterday. He's known me forever. He knows that I'm into this stuff. He's just always been clean cut, straight edge. Barely drinks at all. I don't drink at all, really. And he's like, oh, is this illegal? What's legal about it? And I think when we start using the word legal, he starts going, oh, then it's doable. I can do that. I can go there. And he's interested in being an
Yeah.
explorer and being, obviously astronauts want to have an altered experience. They go through altered states to get
Oh
where
yeah.
they go. But he would never touch anything that could
Because
tarnish.
of the status.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just interesting you say that astronaut. So I've been maybe interested to get feedback from him. I've been theorizing that it reduces the body's G-force load experientially. So I ride a motorcycle. If you've ridden a motorcycle or any like power sports, right? You can, when you turn sharp, you can feel it. Like it just pulls you in, the G-forces, right? Just like an airplane. And I notice, while microdosing it, but even like a day or 2 days after, it's like there's almost no G-force response. So when you steer, your body's like sort of countering the weight, and this is just so much more flow. Like there's just nothing there. Like I'm just connected with everything. So I've been interesting to hear feedback from like pilots or astronaut would be really fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
for someone that's going through that, just that training, if there's like some experiential differences, that would be really incredible to have knowledge of.
Yeah.
Because I theorize it, based on my own experience, and it's it's curious to say
Yeah.
the least.
So I'm hoping that he'll go on a hikerdose with me because it will be
Yeah,
a
man.
legal hikerdose, and I'm sharing sacrament from the church with him.
Yeah. So what we do when we gather on Fridays, we just kind of make a little circle and say like, hey, we're gonna whatever here, feel the abundance of this place, whatever feels right, and if someone has something to say, and then we just offer, if someone has something to say, and then we just offer 150 milligram microdose. And if people feel called, they come in. It's a really good place to try it and experience it for the first time versus being at home and going like, okay, I'm going to set this space. And it's not that it's not good or it's good or bad. It's just that is, the first time with that sort of molecule, it really wants to open you up and connect.
Yeah.
It's like really heart centered. So it really wants, so being out there and with other people is like really, really, really amazing.
So one of my interesting feedbacks that I'm maybe providing on this show, but I should share with the church services sometime in the integration circle, was someone was saying, because they're so used to psilocybin dosing, that it did feel more head oriented, more creative, more in the head. But moreover, they had never done DMT, and DMT, 5-methoxy DMT, smoking it was like my first drug experience. And so I've been through
That's a whole different.
the the depths of the light and back. and then I kind of dialed it down back into mescaline cactus and mushrooms and things like that. They were a little bit easier to experience. So what do you feel about, how do you feel about the concepts of people presenting different body openings when they talk about psilocybin and DMT and psilomethoxin? People say that, there's a head experience, and then there's a heart experience, and that heart experience tends to be a little bit more like the MDMA experience, maybe more like the cactus experience, or Wachuma or San Pedro. One of my friends who does a lot of ceremonies, he talks about how the word and the meaning of Wachuma, which is the way we talk about San Pedro in South America, is headless one. It's such
Mm,
a medicine.
right.
So do
Yeah.
you feel
Well,
like there's a body part for you?
yeah. So yeah, Salmathox is totally heart medicine for me.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
well, in my heart of hearts, like is dancing. And when
Mm,
there's and I notice with myself, it's all the restlessness. I'm sort of hyperactive, so people sit down, like sitting down, like move my legs, I constantly move my leg like that. But there's no more of that. It's dancing. It's like it's helped me to
so it's
organize
rhythm.
that. Yeah, it's helped me to organize the random, expression of hyperactivity into some organized movement. And
Neat.
dancing is rhythm, right? Organizing into some sort of thing. And that's the key, with a lot of the medicines, like music, supporting music. I mean, there can be no sound, which is nice. There can be background noise, but if you have music in some sort of organized way, then the body wants to be in rhythm with the
Yeah.
sound. And randomized sounds, you're just like you sort of are unable to. I mean, you can dance, but it's sort of not as like asymmetrical, right? It just doesn't really
Yeah.
make as much sense. But when you have like some symmetry in music and a good flow, the psilocybin, it's really disconnects the part of you that resists the music. And
Excellent.
so then the body is just like connected right through the center. And so the body just wants to so it's like really good ecstatic dance music,
Yeah.
medicine. And so we're hosting an ecstatic dance in April. We have an Entheogenic Church Association gathering out here in Austin. And we're going to have a psilocybin ecstatic dance, which is
Cool.
going to be really fantastic. But yeah, we've noticed that yeah, it's really like a direct connection. So for me, yeah, it's just like it plugs me right in. When there's sounds happening, like I'm just can't stop moving. Even while I'm
So
chatting with people, it doesn't matter, but it's a dance more than just like I'm just fidgeting.
that makes perfect sense when you talk about the heart, because the heart is the rhythm organ, right?
Yeah.
Da-dum, da-dum. It's our
Yep.
drum, basically.
Especially if it's like medicine music where it's like the heart, like heart rhythm music. Oh man, it's just like you just get in that sound. Like Parangi is
Okay.
like that, yeah, you just get into that like ancestral sound. He's connected because this is like right when connecting the old ways, and the old ways is this. Like we started with the heartbeat. We're like, what is that sound? And it's so rhythmic,
Right. It's a
you
womb
know?
sound for sure.
Yeah. And so we repeat that sound. It's easy to keep up with, like a musician. You just keep making this, So yeah. So yeah, it's nice to explore those like simple nuances of life where when you don't have any resistance. And that's what the psilocybin really helps with. That's the love part, right? Love is surrender. Love is surrender.
Yeah.
And we think love is like hold me and I love you. It's like no, it's completely surrendering to not having to have this because you've already have
Right.
that's what this whole thing is, a giant big embrace.
Right. It's
And
a
when we
giant.
surrender to it, then we from our inside can flow outward. And the way we flow, like the way spirit flows, is love and it's music and it's movement. That's why we
Yeah.
have these limbs. That's why we can balance and see and feel and experience all these emotions so we can express them. Otherwise, we're just like some sort of tank.
hmm hmm Interesting. Wow. There's a lot of philosophical points I want to make about birth process, and I'm gonna table them for another chat, because
Totally.
you talked about the rhythm and the heart, and heart happens to be one of the number one things that we experience in the womb, and then you talk about the detachment that can happen when we disconnect, and there's all this new information coming out about cloning and the artificial wombs and stuff like that. I wanted to jump on a topic change that's a little bit already covered, but let's go into it. Like you talked about doing DMT. I'm assuming you did more than just DMT and psilocybin, but let's talk about what you've already talked about, and then maybe you can segue into ayahuasca if you've done that, because
Yep,
it sounds like you did some other medicines with these veterans. And
totally.
I'm really excited about what content you brought back from your how many gram experience with psilocybin mushrooms? Were they fresh? Were they dried? Oh my God.
Oh no, totally. So I grew while I was growing, yeah, penis envy. Albino penis, I can tell you specifically. So my highest dose is albino penis envy. It was like 9.7 grams with Syrian Rue. And
Whoa,
so
what are
we
you
call it like
looking for? Yeah,
creation,
you're an
creation, man,
explorer. There's the freaking.
creation. So, um, uh, yeah. So with Syrian Rue, it potentiates the experience 2 to 3 times. And so I was like super disciplined. I would not eat. I would stop eating dinner, eating at dinner the night before,
Mhm.
and I would fast all day, only drinking like water, black coffee in the morning with a little honey, but that's it. And I would make I'd take the mush or the Syrian Rue, 3 grams of Syrian Rue seeds. I would steep them for 30 minutes and then drink it about 45 minutes before I ate the mushrooms. And with the mushrooms, I did lemon tech, 9.7 grams, and then mixed it with tea and then drank the whole thing. I ate all the bits and everything. Yeah, well, it's not going to kill me. And
No.
my house and my space was like really amazing. My wife would like sit at the top of the stairs and sort of like she was my sitter, but I was alone. Like there's no one to hold my hand or any of that stuff. I just wanted to do this as much on my own as possible because I knew that there's no one coming to save me in real life. So
Save
if if
yourself.
if I wanted to go deep, I needed to go alone because I can't always have a buddy. Not that I don't want someone to hold my hand, but I want to go on my own so I know I can, and then I can take someone else and hold their hand. So
So what's
yeah,
on the other side?
yes. So there is. It's like I don't want to go too deep into description. It's difficult. I don't like to maybe like tarnish or taint other people's experiences. Um, but I remember, and this is my wife was telling me that I was speaking in tongues.
Yeah.
I spoke to myself in my mom's voice, and
Wow.
there was a period of time where I was blind, and I was sitting in so the room was completely dark. Uh, I turned all the lights off, and I would have like a candle just to have like glow, and the room was completely dark. And I remembered sitting up, and I was on the same couch that I was on, but the room was completely illuminated. It was lit, and I couldn't. Everything that was in my field of view from where I was sitting on the couch remained in my field of view, and I couldn't. No matter where I turned, that same image followed me everywhere I turned. And I was in this place and I couldn't move. I couldn't get up. I felt like I was soaking wet. Like I was either had sweated and just got soaking wet, or I peed myself and I
Hmm.
was just completely full of water. But I wasn't in. I didn't go to another place. I was stuck in place, and I sat in this place and I was like, this is what it's like to be blind. And all I could think of was I need to call work because they're gonna know I'm blind. I'm like, oh wait a minute. But then I remember I said, wait a minute, I'm blind. Fuck it, I'm blind. Like, who cares now? Like, why do I care? Like,
Yeah.
I went blind. Why do I care? Why do I care about anything? Like, wait a minute. Do I care about anybody's opinion? I'm blind. I don't so if I leave this moment and stay this way forever, I had a fear that I would never see again, that this was going to be the last thing I ever saw. Was this like, it was like a photograph I took of the room that was stuck to my eyes
Yeah.
forever. I would never see another, but I could talk, I could move, but that's the only thing I could see. And I said, if that's my truth, then nothing else anyone else could do to me could ever affect me in a negative way. what is someone going to do that's worse than that
Yeah.
to me in that moment? So I, I sat there and I did this. I conversed with myself in that image on repeat for, I don't know, maybe an hour, maybe hour, however long it took for me to sort of start moving around and coming to. And then I remember sort of towards the end, I as like coming out, and then everything is like, so there's so much depth to everything. There's so much texture, like standing up between here and the wall. It's just like there's so much matter there that you had to like peel apart to move
Oh,
across the room. Yeah. Because I had to get up to go to the back. Remember, I had to
you're
get up
talking
to go to
about
the back.
maybe an ectoplasmic matter, like
So just a density,
yeah,
a density to the environment, and
yeah.
it's just there everywhere. Um, yeah. So as I started to emerge and like climb through that, I started to like realize um, before this. So just some context, I was trying to record myself every time I would go in like really, really high doses, and I could never get the camera to record. It was either too dark. I have a bunch of these videos. I got to put them together. Um, but yeah, I could never get the video to turn out. So um, I may have, and I have some of these audio recordings, and I think I have this one on audio record, and it's really kind of interesting to hear because it's just like me making murmurs in the background. Because I did Audacity and I recorded with a microphone, and I did a camera and a phone to so I could see what I was doing and what I was up to
You're
because I
like a
didn't know
ghost
any.
hunter for your soul.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Well, and so for me, like people get all these, and this is why I don't like to read and tarnish other people's stories and all their crystal adventures, and not that those aren't not that those I haven't experienced, but I'm looking for. It's not what I'm looking for. It's like what I'm given as a message,
Yeah,
and all the rest of this stuff to me is like pretty cool, pretty lights and colors, and it's amazing. But it's like if I don't take the message back to my physical self on what to do, not what to do next, but like how to influence myself, then I'm just entertaining myself like watching a movie. And I can
yeah,
go to the movie every day. And what
sure.
good is that going to do for my life? So for me, I'm like, how do I use these things to solve the problem? So I'm looking at my blindness and like realizing uh, there's nothing worse that anyone can do to me. And like maybe in that small thing that it takes some time to recognize and integrate how powerful that experience is, being stuck and never being able to escape it, and then and then waking up and like turning the lights on and be like, oh my god, I'm not blind, I can see again. What and so those types of experience, and that one was very 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 powerful. And so yeah, I became now from there, and this is exactly what drove me to this point in my life is that experience, not specifically just that one, but those were similar to that, where just not taking no for an answer and realizing that there's so many people that have so much worse things. And in my mind, I knew I could do it, and I could only imagine the mind of someone who is so terrified or so over this reality that they kill themselves. And I need to tell them that there's another way, that you can suffer and be stuck in a room blind for the rest of your life, but we can go positive from that. All the things that we've
Right.
experienced, that most of us have experienced, is already the bottom or the worst that they're ever going to experience. And so we just got to turn away from it. And in doing this work and helping people to do this work on their own, and telling them that it's, not telling, but showing them that it's safe and it's effective, is vital. And we know that psilocybin and 5-MeO DMT and really all these tryptamines are safe to take. And so all we need to do is give people a safe place to take them, and
Yep.
then let them take these things. And it shouldn't be through a clinical setting, required to be through a clinical setting. Friends in a house, in a safe
Yeah,
space.
yeah, yeah.
So
Facilitation of safety and harm reduction,
yeah.
and then also like kind of some philosophical and or spiritual interpretations of the mystical experience, because it sounds like you had. And can I offer an opinion?
No, totally.
If I had had that experience, and from my vantage point of listening to you, I would have been like, wow, I went to purgatory, to hell, and I was there all eternity,
Oh yeah.
and it was only an hour. And so everything, of course, is above that. Everything is rising above. that purgatory experience or that hellish experience, which we're philosophically told by Western Christians that we put ourselves there. And literally, if I had done that and gone there, I would have been, well, I did this to
That's
myself.
right.
I made myself blind for all eternity.
Exactly. Well, that's the whole that's the whole point of the being able to ascend from that. It's like if I'm responsible for everything, I'm responsible. If all the blame is in me, then what else am I responsible for? Everything. Then so if I'm responsible for everything, then I'm capable of everything. If I'm responsible for getting myself here, if there's no one else to blame, then there's no one else I can expect to change my situation but myself. And that's where we all resonate most. And we're off, we're out of the rhythm. We're out of that space because most of us have grown up in a place where you go to the store to buy your food. Someone's told you how to live. Someone's told you how to pay your bills, or
Yeah.
how to love, or how to work, or how to find value. And the self has been like backseated. But when the self takes charge, you don't need these extravagant things in life to find your value. And then people don't have that missing link that they need to fill with things that are artificial and that they can't actually fulfill themselves with.
Yeah.
And then, and so then it's like then people are healing themselves, and that's the truth. Like we're really the only thing we can actually effectuate healing on is ourselves. And we can do our best to help and comfort, or create safe spaces for others, but everyone does their own work. And then we influence other people by doing our own work and being the best self that we can be.
Self-leading. Yeah.
Otherwise we're just youing and recognizing that everything is separate from the self, but really everything that's happening in this, everything is inside of us. This is all inside, no matter all the things we can see and touch, it's still in here. All this stuff out here is artificial. Absolutely. We're just projecting it. So
this is Dante from Dante's Inferno, Rising to Paradise. Benjamin Moore is with us today. And your new nickname for me is Dante. As you've been through it, have you read that story about the?
Yeah. There's a cool game that they made with it too.
Oh yeah, there's a Devil May Cry or something.
Yeah. Oh, there's Dante's Inferno, and then the Devil May Cry is a cool game. Yeah, I grew up a gamer, so I'm just a big nerd at heart.
What's the largest dose of psilocybin you've taken so far?
Me personally, 2.8 grams.
Okay. How is that?
I was at a music festival. You know those the video editing apps where you can make the texture on something like moving, you can take a tree and it looks like a river flowing down it. So I was at Halloween Music Festival in Live Oak, Florida, and sitting next to Spirit Lake, which is this amazing magical place. When there's they have all these sounds happening around, and then I had my hand on this big oak tree root, just right next to me, and then I remember looking up at the tree, and the whole thing was just downloading in sort of the grainy 5-MeO sort of visual feeling. It's like the whole thing was going into my hand and downloading into me. And I sat there for maybe 45 minutes or an hour, just downloading this tree, just feeling everything. I felt so connected with the world and the world around me. It was just a really, really beautiful, amazing experience. So so 2.8 grams, and we have feedback of people up to 6 grams. So people are astronauts, and
psychonauts. So what if the tree was uploading into your consciousness?
Oh yeah, I never try to cut or dive deeper than the direct messaging that I'm seeing. Just for myself, having the audaciousness to just constantly research and be an information junkie and to learn constantly. Some of the nuanced things that I'm really learning is for me to ask less and experience more. And so with that, when I'm getting gifts, I'm like, why are you doing this? I don't do those things anymore. It's just
Oh,
like gratitude, like thank you for this, thank you for this feeling, thank you for this feeling, and that's like the depth of it. I don't, I'm not looking for answers personally. I'm, I'm like solved. In the answers, I want to help other people find answers. I'm not look. There's nothing to find. There's nothing to find. Where we live here in this life for experience and to find joy and to find sadness. It's like we can point ourselves in any directions we want. And my direction is to constantly find joy in my life and in the lives of the people that I'm around and I can effectuate change in. And anything above and beyond that is like I hope they saw the elves. I hope they saw. And I hope they float. You know, people fly in space, and that's like my dream for others. And I hope that through this work and through the medicine that everyone can get all the answers they seek. And yeah, so yeah, man.
well, you seem like a psychonautical mystic, and I applaud that. Have you led people on or gone with people to ayahuasca experiences?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
How do you think
yeah.
all of this um, difference of medicines and contexts, set and settings, is appropriate for healing from veteran related problems like depression?
Well, so when you have, I don't know, I look at like information density has a lasting effect. And when you've touched the contrast of reality in such a way that it's like really prolific, you know, people have these really direct traumatic experiences. And so the flip side of that is a level of energy production that happens as a byproduct of daily life. And you know, it's expressed as hypervigilance in people because the training that we have as vets, first responders, is when you have these feelings, the body is naturally at a state of response. And so you go into a room, you have a feeling of stress because there's a lot of people. So the body is just it's just manifesting the training protocol, which is hyper arousal, hyper awareness, like prepare for anything, whatever it is. Well, that energy production never goes away. And so even if we're training the brain to pay attention to other things, it's still producing energy. It's just less traumatic for us. So, you know, and people that have had that lifestyle, needing something to do is really important. And getting to be able to put your energy to work is really vital I don't say survivability, but in the yeah in the joyful survival of individuals. And so helping people to find a way that they can provide the most value to themselves inside or outside the medicine stuff. The medicine just helps us get there faster. But that's like the baseline of all the healing and all the self stuff is getting people to a place where they're like, oh, I feel really good. I'm going to continue to do this thing that makes me feel really good. And it's not destroying me like, you know, alcohol or all these other things. It's something that
Yeah.
can provide value. And whether that's with psychedelics, with the psilocybin or with just the community stuff, vets, they need an outlet. We all need an outlet. And if you're a chess player and you've had trauma and but your outlet is chess, you're going to play a lot more chess. And you're going to use that as something that's providing you joy. And so with vets, I guess maybe I'm circling back, but like people you grow up using outlets of war games, shooting, and
Mm.
those things, even though they're amazing and they're fun, they just keep the process in cycle. They keep the process in cycle. So you know, providing ways for us to explore ourselves that's less directly re-traumatizing is also an important aspect. And it's really just like a topic of focus for people. And yeah, that's why going out in nature and hiking and getting together in community in like a non-pressure way is really helpful. And it really helps to sort of transform people at a faster rate.
Would you say that there's a good way to make an adjunct experience either before, after, or during these war game type training things where, you know, somebody takes a little bit of what they know, maybe they're experienced shooter or whatever, and they want to go out shooting. Should it be that they take a microdose before, after, or during? as a way of integrating and kind of slowing the central nervous system down, bringing it back to parasympathetic. Any opinions there? Adjunct.
Yeah, however people are utilizing, yeah, I noticed maybe like it's like a higher bandwidth to process information. So, whereas, when you're having some there's like hypervigilance going on, you have like some acute focus. If I'm in a restaurant, it's just full of people, I'm just like looking at specific things, like easiest way to leave the place, how many people are here, like someone new walked in, like focus, like it's completely just, and that's normal, like that's just normal everyday stuff. Well, with psilocybin, those things are happening, but my focus is remaining where I'm directing it, at the other person that I'm with. And so those things maybe are happening, but I have a higher bandwidth to process data, so I don't have to turn my direct attention to those things. They could just like sort of flow through. And so really, I think anything in that high intensity way can be padded by the use of this stuff. So without sort of focusing or advising on anybody using any specific way, it's gonna increase the ability for us to process information and data.
Okay.
Really.
So, in my assessment, and again, this is my opinion, not saying that you're going to agree with it, and not saying that what you said agrees with it. I think that if I went out like shooting with some military buddies, or we did some sort of excursion, and then after we're done using things that we might need our full wits about us to use, and then we take psilocybin and it becomes an integration conversation.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean,
And that way they start overlaying the two experiences and maybe problem solving what has driven a lot of people to the programming of the military.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes. However, yeah, exactly. So it's however one chooses to to utilize it is completely up to their individual. But I know that at its base, if people are experiencing those stressful or traumatic things over and over and over again, being able to take it every day. So if that's part of their cycle, then they can do that, and that's key. That's key, right? Because individuals that need it can take it as often as they want. So they can take it when they're out shooting. They can take it when they're sailing, whatever they want to do, and then they can take it after, before. And the integration stuff's key, and that's like the stuff we're offering with the church. They can come on Sundays and join in with our group integration stuff. And however, like I said, however people use this as an individual, we use it live and during the event, because you're sort of processing and integrating as you're working with it. If you're using it as a microdose, so if you're using it as a microdose, you're still lucid. I wouldn't take a gram of it and then go do anything. Really, that's like motor functional. You want to be hanging out.
Yeah.
But a microdose, like 150 milligrams, 250 milligrams, in a group setting, like you're processing, integrating everything right as it's happening. So there isn't any need to like go back and like review, right? Because it's like that's sort of like the integration. Integration's like reviewing. Like, okay, we're gonna go after the fact, after your journey. Let's recap how you felt. How did you feel? And like going all this stuff, and like there's not really a need for that. You're sort of doing that review without having to do the review. You're just like part of the process. So, with this like observer, I guess we're like the observer effect, as we become more conscious of our ability to separate like this and this part of us. Maybe there's more of a union here. Maybe there's more of a connection here, less of a need to go back and go like, oh, I did these things for this reason. It happened. It's over. Like, and just moving on. It's really important for that. And that's the importance of the training of the self, to do everything the right way for the self and not leave anything behind. And the whole training program is like, if we don't leave anything behind, then there's nothing that I have to remember. There's nothing I have to go back and review. There's nothing I have to go back and judge.
And rationalize.
No, it's just, you just don't leave anything behind. You're doing everything the best you can every step of the way, and then moving forward from that.
It's a presence sacrament. It's a presence.
Well, I mean, it's so unity consciousness. We can think as like as above, so below. So if we look at unity consciousness as this like we're connecting to the whole thing. Well, also, is unity consciousness also going from here then all the way in through our body and connecting our whole body back together? It's all unity. It's not, there is no delineation. And unity is really, there's no afterthought, forethought. It's just is. And that's all there is just the now. And the decisions that we make, we stand here, information comes at us, we make a choice. That's reality. That's all we have. And all the rest of the things are thoughts of what happened or what may happen.
Yeah.
And that's all thoughts are. And we just get stuck on things because they remind us, like, oh, I like this food. And I like cheese, but I always smell cheese. So that reminder stays and we just keep remembering it, right?
Yeah.
But that's but we want to let the past go. And it's difficult because when we don't latch onto something, then our identity starts to vaporize. Then our self starts to vaporize. But we're here all along. We don't need to weigh the front or the rear, the pros and the cons. We just need to be here in the presence. And yeah, psilocybin helps us who are stuck in the front or in the back, because we all know someone who isn't necessarily stuck in the past, but they're stuck in a dream of where they're going to be.
Yeah.
In 10 years, I'm going to have $1 million and I'm going to have a Rolls Royce or whatever it is. It's like whatever the dream, quote unquote, is, it's removing the self from the now and inserting that self into the future and then relating to that. Like, this is who I want to be, and now this self relates to that self.
Yeah.
But what is in between this and there? It's all this forgotten life. It's all the flowers we didn't smell. It's all the sunlight we didn't see and experience. It's all the interaction that we've missed, chasing the 30 years from now that may or may not come. So the now is the only thing that exists. So yes, psilocybin, say it again, psilocybin in nature helps us get to the now.
Yeah.
And then we can integrate that and go, oh my goodness, I don't need this to be present in the now all the time. And then we slowly stop taking it. Maybe eventually, like I said, and then it's like once a week. However people want to use it, that's the idea. It's not to get someone on something forever. It's to get something on someone to take something to help them to recognize that they're here in the now. And then there isn't anything else. There's nothing torturing them anymore from their past. There's nothing that's coming to hit them in their future. That they're here and they're beautiful. Everything else in life is, yeah, no problem, man. I mean,
all my relations. That's awesome.
Man.
That really does sum up the last question I was going to have, which is what's the value? And you've just given another point to the value right there.
Oh, well, I'm glad to answer that preemptively.
Yeah. Well, see, you're telepathine. So, tell people where to find you and what your role in the church is, and
yeah. So I'm me, Greg, and Ian are all three co-founders. And I'm behind the scenes doing all this stuff and putting things together, getting people connected with the sacrament and obviously all the background operations, with my sort of operating the levers of sustainment resources. I have trying to like do civilian communication, but it's like a very militarized vocabulary. So I'm trying to like bridging the two. But yeah, so we're operating the levers of this organization and trying to keep it oriented in the best possible direction to continue to provide service and sacrament to people and grow and to provide relief to as many people as possible and really optimization to their life. And I'm really thankful and happy to have been on here with you, man, and be able to share all this information. It's been a really good time.
Yeah, you're that smiley guy on the integration. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Benjamin. And we didn't get to talk about your free diving too much. We didn't get to talk about your
next time, dude.
excursion.
I'll be going to free dive in a few weeks. Maybe we can do another chat next month.
Yeah, I love the idea, the concepts of free diving. I wanted to get the guy James
it's
Nestor
huge,
on the show.
It's huge with 5-MeO and it's huge with psilocybin. I can definitely go in depth with there with you next time.
It pairs really well with that experience, eh?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, we got to do another show just for that.
Yeah, man.
Well, this has been an Entheo Radio broadcast. You're listening to Entheo Radio however you're doing it. You could be listening audio, but we also have YouTube and Patreon accounts. So please join us. It's ENTHEO Radio on everywhere you can listen to podcasts, video, and otherwise. This is your captain, Hugh T Alkemi, and Benjamin Moore of psilomethoxin.com. Would you spell that for us real quick,
Oh
Benjamin?
yeah. psilomethioxin.com. Yeah, and you can also LinkedIn me, Silo Benjamin.
Silo Benjamin. P-S-I-L-O?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, Silo Benjamin. When this is us signing out, have a wonderful and a happy new year.
All right.